The Trans-Saharan trade. The term trans means across. Therefore, Trans-Saharan trade refers to trade across the Sahara. It involved the exchange of goods between the people of northern Africa, such as the Berbers and the Touaregs, and the communities of the western Sudan belt, the area to the south of the Sahara Desert. The word Sudan means black. Arabs referred to sub-Saharan Africa as Bilad al-Sudan or land of the blacks. In the Trans-Saharan trade, the people of North Africa referred to the dark-skinned people living to the south of the Sahara as the Zinj. They included the people of the kingdoms of Ghana, Mali and Songhai. Historical evidence shows that the Trans-Saharan trade was in progress from as early as the 1st century AD. The Trans-Saharan trade reached its climax between the 8th and 16th centuries AD. Trade commodities. The goods from Western Sudan included 1. Gold. This was the most important commodity in the trade. It was mined at Asante and Wangara in Ghana, Bornu, Upper Senegal and Upper Niger. 2. Slaves. These were obtained from Western Sudan either through war or trade. Slaves were in high demand in northern Africa and the Middle East where they used as soldiers and laborers. 3. Hides and skins. These mostly came from Hausa land where people kept large herds of livestock. The hides were tanned into leather for making musical instruments, shoes, clothing and accessories. 4. Colonets and ostrich feathers. These were also obtained from Hausa land, mainly from the Kano region in modern-day Nigeria. 5. Ivory. This mostly came from Côte d'Ivoire Ivory Coast. 6. Gum. This was mostly collected in Mauritania and Senegal. 7. Pepper and dyed cloth. The commodities from the north included 1. Salt. This came from Tagaza, Teodini, Bilma and Gadames. 2. Horses. These were obtained from Tripoli in modern-day Libya. The political leaders in the south needed horses for their armies. 3. Other items of trade from the north included perfumes, spices, dried fruits, dates, glassware, beads, mirrors, needles, firearms, daggers and cowrie shells. Organization of the trade. The Trans-Saharan trade involved the coverage of great distances across the desert. The journey from northern Africa to western Sudan took about 3 months. The traders faced dangers such as hostile desert tribes, getting lost, sandstorms and dehydration. For this reason, it was necessary to plan carefully for large caravans involving thousands of camels and traders, particularly due to the need for security. Arrangements were made to ensure that the trading caravans set off from the north together. Camels were used as pack animals because they could survive without food and water for a long time. The rich merchants from the north provided trade goods, camels and horses to the middlemen who coordinated the trade. These middlemen established good relations with the Berbers and Touaregs through whose territories the caravans had to pass. The middlemen also contacted the Touareg desert guides, takshifs. Takshifs guided traders on the tricky routes across the Sahara and also acted as guards during the journey. They also guarded the oases where the traders and their camels rested and got fresh supplies. During trade negotiations, the takshifs also acted as interpreters between the Arabs and the people from western Sudan. The takshifs were paid for their services using trade goods. The middlemen carried gifts for the political leaders in western Sudan. This was important as the political leaders protected the traders and ensured safe passage in their territories. Some famous leaders involved in this trade were Mansa Musa of Mali and Askia Muhammad of Songhai. On arrival in western Sudan, the traders from the north gave their goods to agents. These agents acted as middlemen. They were trusted people who could be given goods on credit. They sold the goods during the time it took for the caravan traders to go to North Africa and come back to western Sudan. Some of the communities that acted as middlemen were the Mandinka, Mandingo, Soninke, Songhai and Hausa. The barter method of trade was adopted in this trade. This worked well as the traders from the north had different goods from those of western Sudan, and both sides needed goods from each other. Trade routes. All the caravan routes in this trade began from the north. Direction the trade routes took was greatly determined by the location of oases in the desert. The following were some of the most important routes. 1. A route began at Fez, through Marrakech in Morocco, south to Sijilmassa, Tagaza and Wadan, and ended at Otagost in western Sudan. Sijilmassa was well placed as a stopover point. It was an oasis where the traders and their animals could rest and replenish their supplies. Tagaza, on the other hand, was a desert town that produced salt, one of the most valued items in this trade. 2. A route began in Tunis and went through Ghadames, Gat, Agades and Gao. From there it passed through Hausaland and Ganja and eventually ended in Yorubaland in modern Nigeria. 3. A route began at Sijilmassa and went through Timbuktu and on to Gao. 4. There was also a route that started at Tripoli in modern Libya, through Fezzan, ending in Bornu in western Sudan. Impact of the Trans-Saharan trade. While most of the trade results were positive, there were a number of negative consequences as well. Positive consequences. 1. The profits from the trade stimulated the growth of strong empires. The rulers in this area imposed taxes on the caravan traders who passed through or traded in their territories. These taxes and other proceeds from the trade enabled leaders to strengthen their militaries by buying modern weapons such as guns and using horses in the army. The empires that grew in the region included Ghana, Mali and Songhai. 2. Western Sudanese rulers established ties with people from the outside world. Using the wealth from the trade, the rulers from the region could travel far and wide. For example, Mansa Musa went on pilgrimage to Mecca and made many international connections, exchanging ambassadors with Morocco and Mali. This way, foreigners became interested in Western Sudan. 3. A number of trading centers emerged along the trade routes. Some of these eventually became urban centers. Examples are Jen, Tagaza, Timbuktu, Kumbi Saleh, Gao and Kano. 4. A class of wealthy merchants emerged in both regions. These people led affluent lifestyles using profits from the Trans-Saharan trade. 5. The trade also boosted a number of arts and industries. For instance, woodcarving, leather tanning, goldworking and cloth weaving expanded, especially in western Sudan. This was because of the high demand for trade items. 6. The Trans-Saharan trade led to the widespread use of iron tools over large parts of western Sudan. Agricultural production increased greatly as a result. 7. New foods such as oranges, lemons and rice were introduced in western Sudan. These improved the diets of the local people. Rice became a staple food in many areas. 8. Population in some parts of western Sudan increased due to prosperity and food security in the region. 9. Trade also led to the introduction of the Islamic faith to the western Sudan belt. For instance, many of the Hausa converted to Islam. 10. Islamic education was also introduced in western Sudan. Schools, universities and libraries were established in the area. The University of Timbuktu became one of the greatest centers of higher learning in the region. These institutions encouraged literacy and scholarly research, leading to a more learned society. 11. The Trans-Saharan trade also introduced the people of western Sudan to the Arabic culture, including the Arabic language, mode of dressing and eating mannerisms. 12. Arabic architectural designs began to be used in western Sudan. The buildings became bigger and more complex, and longer-lasting materials such as stone were used. 13. Transport became more efficient as a result of the introduction of camels to western Sudan. Camels were better suited to life in the desert than the horses that were used previously. Negative consequences. 1. The Trans-Saharan trade led to increased warfare in western Sudan. This was due to the availability of weapons such as guns and daggers and the use of horses in war. This led to increased loss of life. 2. There were religious conflicts between Muslims and non-Muslim. 3. Due to the demand for ivory, Many elephants had to be killed in western Sudan. This contributed to the reduction in the number of elephants, which are endangered animals and can become extinct. 4. Many people in western Sudan were enslaved due to the high demand for slaves in the trade. This in turn caused depopulation and insecurity in some areas. 5. Some empires collapsed as a result of the conflicts caused by this trade. For example, Morocco invaded Songhai in 1590, leading to the downfall of the Songhai Empire. Decline of the trade. Factors such as exhaustion of trade commodities, insecurity, the banning of slavery and the coming of Europeans led to the decline of the Trans-Saharan trade. Chapter Summary. Technology is the application of scientific knowledge to practical use. Advances in technology make day-to-day life easier and production more efficient. In pre-colonial Africa, people were involved in various types of agriculture, industry and handicrafts in order to meet their basic needs. However, all communities could not produce all the items that they needed. Each group was only able to produce certain things depending on what was available in the environment and their level of technological development. With advances in technology, the different communities could produce in excess of their requirements. They could then exchange their surplus for things that they needed from other communities. This led to trade between various groups. Trade was carried out at local and regional levels in pre-colonial Africa. Trading could be done based on barter exchange or currency. Though it had some negative effects, trade was mostly beneficial to the communities involved. Activities. Visit the local market center. Note the activities taking place. B. Find out when the market began. C. Find out the factors contributing to the development of the market center. D. Write short notes on the advantages and disadvantages of the market center. Imagine you are a takshif. Write down the problems you encounter as you guide a trade caravan across the Sahara Desert.